Marcus Turner's face hit the counter before he even saw it coming. Derek Matthews had grabbed him by the collar of his damp uniform and slammed him down right there in front of 30 customers eating their Monday breakfast. "You're done, Turner. Get out of my diner." No one moved. No one spoke. Forks frozen midair, coffee cups suspended. What no one knew, not Derek, not the customers, not even Marcus himself, was that the young woman sitting quietly in the corner booth had watched everything. The same woman Marcus had pulled from a broken-down car in last night's storm. And she was about to destroy Derek Matthews' entire world. Drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this story travels. The coffee was still dripping from Marcus Turner's uniform when he pushed through the front door of Riverside Diner. 5 minutes late. 5 minutes that would cost him everything. His shoes squeaked against the tile floor, leaving wet prints behind him. The breakfast rush was in full swing, plates, clattering conversation, humming the smell of bacon and fresh toast, thick in the air. Marcus had worked here for 4 years. He knew every regular's order by heart. He knew which booth Mrs. Henderson preferred, which coffee mug old Charlie always asked for, which table the truckers liked because it was closest to the restroom. 4 years. 4 years of showing up early, staying late, never complaining, always smiling, even when his feet ached and his back screamed and his heart was breaking. But today, he was 5 minutes late. "Turner." The voice cut through the diner like a knife. Derek Matthews stood behind the register, his arms crossed, his face twisted into something between disgust and satisfaction. He was wearing that black suit he always wore, pressed, spotless, expensive. His hair was slicked back so tight it looked painted on. Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Mr. Matthews, I can explain." "Explain." Derek stepped out from behind the counter. His leather shoes clicked against the floor with each step. "Explain what exactly?" "Explain why you think your time is more valuable than everyone else's." The diner had gone quiet. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks stopped moving. Every pair of eyes in the place turned toward them. Marcus swallowed hard. "My car broke down. I tried to call, but what?" Derek was closer now, close enough that Marcus could smell his cologne, something sharp and expensive. "But you thought the rules don't apply to you. But you thought I'd just let it slide." "No, sir. You just nothing." Derek's voice rose. He wanted everyone to hear. He wanted this to be a show. "Do you have any idea what day this is? Turner? Do you have any idea who's coming to inspect this diner today?" Marcus shook his head slowly. His throat felt tight. "The owner." Derek set his lips curling into a sneer. "The actual owner of Riverside Diner. First time in over a year. And you think I'm going to let some irresponsible chronically late nobody ruin my first impression?" "I've never been late before," Marcus said quietly. 4 years, Mr. Matthews. This is the first time." Derek laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh. "The first time is also the last time." He reached over and grabbed Marcus's collar. The motion was so sudden, so violent, that Marcus didn't even have time to react. Derek yanked him forward and slammed his face against the counter. Pain exploded across Marcus's cheek. He tasted copper. A woman gasped somewhere behind him. A child started crying. "You're fired," Derek hissed into his ear. "Take off the apron and get out of my diner. Now!" Marcus straightened slowly. His hands were shaking. His face throbbed where it had hit the counter. He looked around the diner at the customers who wouldn't meet his eyes, at Lisa Martinez, standing frozen in the corner with tears streaming down her face, at Tommy Rivers in the kitchen doorway, gripping a spatula like he wanted to throw it. No one said a word. No one dared. Marcus untied his apron. His fingers fumbled with the knot, those same fingers that had tied it thousands of times before, that had carried plates and wiped tables and poured coffee for 4 years without a single complaint. He laid the apron on the counter. "I hope you find another job, Turner," Derek said loud enough for everyone to hear. "But a word of advice next time, care more about your responsibilities and less about playing hero in the middle of the night." Marcus looked at him. really looked at him. Saw the satisfaction in Derek's eyes, the pleasure he took in this public humiliation, the way he stood a little taller, knowing everyone was watching. Marcus wanted to say something, wanted to defend himself, to explain about the storm, about the woman stranded on the side of the road, about how he couldn't just drive past someone who needed help. But what was the point? Derek had already won. Marcus turned and walked toward the door. His shoes still squeaked. The wet prints still followed him. But now they felt like a trail marking his defeat. The door chimed as he pushed it open. The morning air hit him like a slap-cold, damp, indifferent. Atlanta in November. Gray skies, gray streets, gray everything. He stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, not knowing where to go. 4 years, gone in 5 minutes. What Derek Matthews didn't notice, what no one in the diner noticed, was the young woman sitting alone in the corner booth. She had arrived 20 minutes earlier, ordered a cup of black coffee, and hadn't touched it once. She was wearing a simple white blouse and dark slacks, her black hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked like any other professional stopping in for a quick breakfast before work. But Victoria Chen was not any other professional, and she had seen everything. She had seen Derek grab Marcus by the collar. She had seen Marcus's face hit the counter. She had heard every cruel word, every mocking insult, every calculated humiliation. Her coffee had gone cold in her hands. Her jaw was clenched so tight it hurt, because 12 hours ago, that same man, Marcus Turner, had saved her life. The night before had been brutal. Rain came down in sheets, the kind of rain that turned roads into rivers, and visibility into a memory. Victoria had been driving back from a meeting in the suburbs, trying to take a shortcut she'd found on her GPS. The shortcut was a mistake. Her Mercedes had sputtered once, twice, then died completely on a dark stretch of road lined with oak trees. No streetlights. No houses nearby. No other cars. Victoria had tried calling for a tow truck. No answer. Tried calling a taxi. No signal. She had stood beside her car in the pouring rain for 45 minutes, watching her phone die and feeling the cold seep into her bones. Her designer suit was ruined. Her leather heels were caked in mud. She was shivering so hard she could barely hold her phone. And then headlights appeared. An old Ford pickup, beaten and rusted, pulled over to the side of the road. The window rolled down, and a black man in a damp white uniform looked out at her. "You all right, miss?" Victoria had stared at him. Her mind raced through every warning she'd ever heard. Don't trust strangers. Don't get into cars with people you don't know. Don't take risks. But she was freezing. Her phone was dead. Another hour out here, and she might actually get hypothermia. "My car died," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't get anyone to answer." The man studied her for a moment. Then he reached over and opened the passenger door. "Get in. You'll freeze out here." Victoria hesitated. "I have a 6-year-old daughter waiting at home," the man said. "Her name is Maya. I'm not going to do anything to hurt you. I just can't leave someone stranded in this storm." Something in his voice, the weariness, the honesty, the simple kindness, made her trust him. She got in the truck. His name was Marcus Turner. He worked as a waiter at a diner called Riverside. He had been a single father for 2 years, ever since his wife died in a car accident. He told her all of this as they drove through the rain, not because she asked, but because he could tell she was nervous. He was trying to put her at ease. "Maya's probably asleep by now," he said, his eyes on the road. "My neighbor watches her when I work late, Mrs. Patterson. She's been a lifesaver." "That's kind of her," Victoria said. "People around here look out for each other." Marcus shrugged. "It's not a fancy neighborhood, but it's home." They drove in silence for a while. The rain hammered against the windshield. The wipers worked frantically, but could barely keep up. "Where were you heading?" Marcus asked. "A meeting. Business stuff. Ended later than I expected." "Must be important business if you're out this late." Victoria almost laughed. It felt important at the time. Marcus glanced at her. "And now?" She didn't answer. She was thinking about the meeting, about the numbers and projections and profit margins, about the spreadsheets and the contracts and the endless discussions about ROI. She had spent 3 hours in that meeting, and she couldn't remember a single thing that mattered. But she would remember this night. She would remember this man who stopped his truck in a storm to help a stranger. Marcus took her to his apartment. It was small, a living room that doubled as a kitchen, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. But it was clean and warm, and filled with evidence of a child's presence, building blocks on the coffee table, picture books on the shelf, a pink plastic cup in the dish rack. "My daughter Maya," Marcus said when he noticed her looking at the photos on the wall. A little girl with brown skin and curly hair pulled into 2 puffs, grinning at the camera. 6 years old. Light of my life. Victoria felt something tighten in her chest. "She's beautiful," she said. "She looks like her mother." The way he said it, past tense with that quiet ache underneath, told Victoria everything she needed to know. "I'm sorry," she said. Marcus nodded. "It's been 2 years. Some days are easier than others." He handed her a towel and pointed her toward the bathroom. When she came out dressed in an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants he'd lent her, he had a bowl of instant soup waiting. They sat together in that small living room, 2 strangers sharing a meal, and talked about things that actually mattered. Marcus told her about Maya, how she was learning to read, how she asked every night why her mommy never came home, how she drew pictures of their family with her mother floating among the stars. Victoria told him about her work vaguely without specifics, and about how she had spent so many years chasing success that she forgot what success was actually for. "My father used to say something," Marcus said, staring into his soup. "He said the measure of a man isn't what he has, it's what he does when no one's watching." Sounds like a wise man. He was. Marcus smiled sadly. "Gone 10 years now. But I still hear his voice sometimes, especially when I'm making decisions." Victoria looked at this man, exhausted, struggling, barely making ends meet, and saw something she hadn't seen in a long time. Integrity. Real, unshakable integrity. The kind that didn't need an audience, or a reward, or a recognition. The kind that just was, because that's who he was. She woke up at 5 in the morning. The apartment was quiet. Through the thin walls, she could hear Marcus moving around in the kitchen, trying not to make noise. Probably getting ready for his shift at the diner. Victoria sat up on the couch. The blanket he'd given her was soft and warm. The pillow smelled faintly of laundry detergent. She needed to leave before he saw her, before she had to explain who she really was. She found a pen and a piece of paper on the coffee table, and wrote quickly, "Marcus, thank you for seeing me as a person, not a burden or a threat. Last night you reminded me of something I had almost forgotten. I will never forget your kindness. Victoria." She left the note on the folded blanket and slipped out the front door. The morning was cold and gray. She called a taxi from the corner and waited, watching the apartment building from across the street. A few minutes later, Marcus emerged. He was carrying a small backpack, probably his daughter's, and holding the hand of a little girl in a pink jacket. Maya. The child was chattering excitedly about something. Marcus bent down to listen, nodding seriously, giving her his full attention, even though he was clearly exhausted. Victoria watched them walk toward an old car parked on the street. Marcus helped Maya into the back seat, buckled her in, kissed her forehead. Then he got in the driver's seat and started the engine. It sputtered, coughed, died. Marcus tried again. Same result. Victoria could see him through the windshield, his head bowed, his hands gripping the steering wheel. She could imagine what he was thinking. The shift, he was about to be late for the bills. He couldn't afford the daughter who was counting on him. Her taxi arrived. "Ma'am," the driver called. "You coming?" Victoria hesitated. She could help him right now. She could walk over there, reveal who she was, fix everything with a phone call. But something stopped her. She wanted to know what kind of place he worked at, what kind of people he worked for, whether they deserved someone like Marcus Turner. "Take me to Riverside Diner," she told the driver. "I'll wait there." And so Victoria Chen sat in the corner booth of Riverside Diner watching. She watched the customers come and go. She watched Lisa Martinez rush between tables trying to cover for the missing waiter. She watched Tommy Rivers in the kitchen working twice as hard as he should have to. She watched Derek Matthews pace behind the counter checking his watch, his face growing darker with each passing minute. And then Marcus walked in. 5 minutes late. Soaked from the rain. And Derek Matthews made his move. Victoria watched Derek grab Marcus by the collar. She watched Marcus's face hit the counter. She watched the blood trickle from his lip, watched the shock and humiliation in his eyes, watched him untie his apron with trembling hands. She watched a good man get destroyed for being 5 minutes late, and she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Rage. Pure, cold, calculating rage. Derek Matthews had no idea what was coming. Marcus walked home. He didn't have money for a taxi. His truck was still dead on the side of the road where he'd had to abandon it that morning. And the bus didn't run through his neighborhood until noon. So he walked. 3 miles in the November cold, his face still throbbing his uniform, still damp, his mind spinning with questions he couldn't answer. How was he going to pay rent next month? How was he going to buy groceries? How was he going to tell Maya that Daddy lost his job? He passed a playground where a father was pushing his son on a swing. The boy was laughing, arms spread wide, completely, trusting that his father would catch him. Marcus stopped and watched for a moment. 2 years ago, that had been him and Maya. Before LaShonda died. Before the world turned upside down. Before every single day became a battle just to survive. He remembered the night of the accident, the phone call from the hospital, the drive that felt like it lasted forever, the doctor's face when he walked into the waiting room, that expression that said everything before a single word was spoken. "I'm sorry, Mr. Turner. We did everything we could." She had been driving home from her mother's house. A drunk driver ran a red light. She never had a chance. Marcus had held her hand in that hospital room watching the machines flatline, feeling his whole world collapse. And then he had gone home and held his 4-year-old daughter and tried to explain why Mommy wasn't coming back. That was the hardest thing he had ever done. Until today. Mrs. Patterson opened the door before Marcus even knocked. "Marcus," her face creased with concern. "What are you doing home? Is everything?" She stopped when she saw his face, the bruise forming on his cheek, the dried blood on his lip. "Oh, honey, what happened?" "I got fired." The words came out flat, emotionless, like he was reporting the weather. Mrs. Patterson pulled him inside. Come in. Maya's at school already. I dropped her off an hour ago. Come sit down. Let me get you some ice for that face." Marcus sat on her couch and stared at the wall. 4 years. He had given that diner 4 years of his life. 4 years of smiling at rude customers, of working double shifts during the holidays, of coming in early and staying late, of never asking for a raise, even when he desperately needed one. And Derek Matthews had thrown him away like garbage, in front of everyone. "Here." Mrs. Patterson pressed a bag of frozen peas against his cheek. "Hold that there. Now tell me what happened." So Marcus told her. About the storm. About the woman stranded on the road. About bringing her home because he couldn't leave someone out there in the cold. About his truck breaking down this morning, making him late for the first time in 4 years. About Derek grabbing his collar and slamming his face into the counter. Mrs. Patterson listened without interrupting. When he finished, her eyes were wet. "That man is a monster," she said quietly. "What kind of person does that? What kind of person punishes someone for helping a stranger?" Marcus shook his head. "Doesn't matter now. What's done is done." "It matters, Marcus. It matters because you're a good man, the best man I know. And that," she gestured at his bruised face, "that is not what good men deserve." Marcus felt tears prick at his eyes. He blinked them back. "What am I going to tell Maya?" Mrs. Patterson took his hand. You're going to tell her the truth. That Daddy helped someone who needed help, and sometimes the world doesn't reward that, but it doesn't make it wrong. You're going to tell her that doing the right thing is always worth it even when it costs you. Is it though? Marcus's voice cracked. Is it worth it? I can't pay rent next month, Mrs. Patterson. I can't buy groceries. I can't. You'll figure it out. You always do. She squeezed his hand. And I'm here. I'll watch Maya for free as long as you need. We'll get through this together. Marcus looked at this woman, 72 years old, living on a fixed income, barely getting by herself, offering to help him for free. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. She smiled. That's what neighbors are for. That afternoon, Marcus picked Maya up from school. She came running out of the building, her backpack bouncing her curly puffs, flying her smile so bright it hurt to look at. Daddy! She launched herself into his arms. He caught her, held her tight, breathed in the smell of crayons and playground dirt, and something uniquely Maya. Hey baby girl, how was school? It was great. We learned about butterflies today. Did you know they start as caterpillars? And then they make a cocoon, and then they come out all pretty with wings. I did know that. Marcus carried her toward the car. Mrs. Patterson had given him a ride to pick her up since his truck was still dead. That's called metamorphosis. Metamorphosis, Maya repeated carefully. That's a big word. You're a smart girl. You can handle big words. Maya pulled back and looked at his face. Her smile faded. Daddy, what happened to your face? Marcus had forgotten about the bruise. He had been so focused on seeing her, on holding her, that he forgot he looked like he had lost a fight. I bumped into something, he said. It's okay, doesn't hurt. Maya reached out and touched his cheek gently, the way he touched her when she had a boo-boo. Poor Daddy, she said. Do you need a Band-Aid? Band-Aids make everything better. Marcus felt his heart crack open. You know what, baby girl, I think you're right. A Band-Aid would help a lot. That night after dinner, after bath time, after 3 stories and 2 glasses of water and one last trip to the bathroom, Marcus sat on the edge of Maya's bed. Daddy. Yeah, baby. Why do you look sad? Marcus took a breath. I have to tell you something, Maya. Daddy's not going to be working at the diner anymore. Maya's eyes went wide. Why not? Sometimes things don't work out the way we want them to. Sometimes people are unfair, but it's going to be okay. Daddy's going to find another job. Did someone be mean to you? Marcus hesitated. Then he nodded. Maya sat up in bed, her face suddenly fierce. That's not nice. They shouldn't be mean to you. You're the best daddy in the whole world. Marcus pulled her into a hug, hiding his face in her hair so she wouldn't see the tears. Thank you, baby girl. That means everything to me. Daddy. Yeah. Mommy says from heaven that you're going to be okay. She told me in a dream. Marcus's throat closed up. He couldn't speak. She said you help people, and that's good, and good things happen to good people. Maybe not right away, but they do. She promised. Marcus held his daughter and cried. He cried for the job he lost, for the wife he missed, for the future he couldn't see. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he had almost forgotten, existed a small flame of hope, still flickered. Maybe LaShonda was right. Maybe good things did happen to good people. He just had to hold on long enough to find out. 3 miles away, in a luxury hotel suite overlooking downtown Atlanta, Victoria, Chen sat at her desk, staring at her laptop screen. On the screen was a file labeled Riverside Diner. Management records. She had spent the last 4 hours digging through everything: employee records, financial reports, customer reviews, complaint logs. And what she found made her blood boil. Derek Matthews had been skimming money from the register for months. Small amounts at first, $50, here $100 there, but it added up. Over $3,000 in the past quarter alone. And that wasn't all. He had fired 6 employees in the past year. All of them for minor infractions. All of them without severance or notice. All of them replaced with people willing to work for lower wages. Victoria had bought Riverside Diner 18 months ago as a small investment, one of dozens of properties in her portfolio. She had never visited, never paid attention to how it was run. She had trusted the numbers, trusted the reports that Derek sent every month. She had trusted the wrong person. Victoria picked up her phone and dialed a number. "James, it's Victoria Chen. I need you at Riverside Diner first thing tomorrow morning. Bring recording equipment, and bring the police on standby." She hung up and looked out the window at the Atlanta skyline. Tomorrow, Derek Matthews was going to learn a very important lesson. You don't mess with people Victoria Chen cares about. And after last night, Marcus Turner was definitely someone she cared about. Victoria didn't sleep that night. She sat at her desk until 3 in the morning scrolling through files, cross-referencing receipts, building a case against Derek Matthews that would be impossible to deny. By the time the sun started creeping over the Atlanta skyline, she had filled an entire notebook with evidence of his theft, his abuse of power, his systematic destruction of anyone who threatened his control. But it wasn't enough. She needed more. She needed to see how the diner operated when Derek thought no one important was watching. She needed witnesses. She needed testimony. And she needed to understand exactly what kind of man Marcus Turner was. Her phone buzzed at 6:30. "Ms. Chen, it's James Porter. I'm downstairs." "Come up." James Porter was a former FBI agent turned private investigator. Victoria had used him before on corporate matters. Background checks, fraud investigations, the occasional deep dive into a business partner's financials. He was thorough, discreet, and completely unflappable. He walked into her suite carrying a leather briefcase and a coffee from the lobby. "You look like you haven't slept," he said. "I haven't." Victoria pushed a folder across the desk. "Read this." James sat down and opened the folder. His eyebrows rose as he flipped through the pages. Derek Matthews, manager of Riverside Diner, employed 18 months. "And you think he's been stealing?" "I don't think. I know." Victoria pointed to a spreadsheet. "Look at the supply costs. They've increased 40% in the past quarter, but inventory hasn't changed. He's inflating expenses and pocketing the difference." James studied the numbers. "That's not hard to prove. Get an auditor in there, compare receipts to actual inventory." "I don't want an auditor," Victoria cut in. "I want you. I want hidden cameras, recorded conversations, documented proof of everything he's done. And I want it before the end of the week." James looked up at her. "That's aggressive. Why the rush?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she told him about Marcus, about the storm, about her broken-down car, about the stranger who stopped to help when no one else would, about the soup and the blanket and the conversation that lasted until midnight, about watching Derek slam Marcus's face into the counter and fire him in front of 30 witnesses. When she finished, James was quiet. "So this is personal," he said. "Yes." "Good." James closed the folder. "Personal cases are the ones I do best. I'll have everything you need by Friday." After James left, Victoria showered and changed into fresh clothes. She had a decision to make: go to the diner now and confront Derek, or wait until she had ironclad evidence. The smart move was to wait. But Victoria Chen hadn't built a business empire by always making the smart move. Sometimes you had to trust your instincts, and right now, her instincts were telling her to walk into Riverside Diner and see exactly what Derek Matthews was capable of when he thought the owner wasn't watching. She grabbed her coat and headed for the door. The morning rush at Riverside Diner was quieter than usual. Victoria noticed it the moment she walked in. The energy was different, subdued, tense, like everyone was walking on eggshells. Lisa Martinez was behind the counter, moving mechanically, her eyes red and puffy. Tommy Rivers was in the kitchen, but he wasn't whistling like he usually did. Even the customers seemed to feel it, eating quickly and leaving without lingering over their coffee. Derek stood by the register checking receipts with a satisfied smile on his face. Victoria chose a different booth this time, one closer to the counter, where she could hear conversations more clearly. She ordered coffee and toast, and pretended to read a newspaper she'd grabbed from the stand by the door. "Lisa," Derek's voice carried across the diner. "Table 7 needs a refill. Why are you standing around?" I don't care what you were just. Do your job or find another one." Lisa flinched like she'd been slapped. She grabbed the coffee pot and hurried toward table 7, her hands shaking so badly the pot rattled against the cup when she poured. Victoria watched Derek's face as he tracked Lisa's movements. There was something predatory in his expression, a man who enjoyed making others afraid. "Morning, Mr. Matthews." A young man in a cook's apron emerged from the kitchen. Victoria recognized him as one of the part-time employees she'd seen in the files. "We're running low on bacon. Should I call the supplier?" Derek didn't even look at him. "Figure it out yourself. That's what I pay you for." "But the supplier said we need a manager's authorization to—" Did I stutter? Derek finally turned his eyes cold. "Figure it out. Or do I need to find someone who can—" The young man retreated to the kitchen without another word. Victoria felt her anger building again. This was worse than she'd thought. Derek wasn't just stealing money, he was creating a culture of fear. Every employee in this diner was terrified of him. And Marcus Turner had worked under this man for 4 years. She thought about what Marcus had told her last night about Maya, about his wife, about the endless struggle of being a single father. He had never mentioned Derek by name, never complained about his job. He had just smiled and said it paid the bills. That was the kind of man Marcus was. The kind who didn't complain. The kind who kept his head down and did his work. The kind who got destroyed by people like Derek Matthews. Victoria finished her coffee and left a $20 bill on the table, far too much for toast and coffee, but Lisa looked like she could use a good tip. Then she walked out without looking at Derek. She had seen enough. Across town, Marcus was standing in line at the unemployment office. The building smelled like industrial cleaner and despair. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The chairs were plastic and uncomfortable, bolted to the floor in rows like a waiting room for purgatory. Marcus took a number 47 and sat down to wait. The man next to him was older, maybe 60, with gray stubble and calloused hands. He was staring at the floor like it held the answers to questions he couldn't bring himself to ask. "First time?" the man asked without looking up. "Yeah." "Gets easier. Not better, just easier." The man finally raised his eyes. "What happened?" Marcus hesitated. "Got fired." "What for?" "Being 5 minutes late." The man laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "That's a new one. Usually they at least make up something good. Insubordination, misconduct, something that sounds official. My manager didn't need an excuse. He just wanted me gone." "Managers." The man shook his head. "Had one like that at the factory. Little man with a big ego. Fired anyone who made him feel small." He paused. "Which was everyone eventually." "What happened to him?" "Nothing. That's the thing about people like that. Nothing ever happens to them. They just keep going, stepping on whoever's in their way, and the world lets them." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. The man was right. Nothing was going to happen to Derek Matthews. He would keep running that diner, keep terrorizing employees, keep destroying lives. And there was nothing Marcus could do about it. Number 47. Marcus stood up. "That's me." The man nodded. "Good luck." Marcus walked to the window where a tired-looking woman in glasses was waiting behind a computer screen. Name: Marcus Turner. Reason for unemployment: terminated. The woman typed without expression. Previous employer: Riverside Diner. Length of employment: 4 years. Reason given for termination. Marcus paused. What was he supposed to say? That his manager had slammed his face into a counter and fired him for being 5 minutes late? That he had been humiliated in front of 30 customers? that his only crime was helping a stranger in a storm. "Tardiness," he finally said. The woman typed. "Any prior incidents?" "No, this was the first time." She stopped typing and looked at him for the first time. "First time in 4 years." "Yes." She studied his face, the bruise on his cheek, the weariness in his eyes, and something shifted in her expression. Something that might have been sympathy. "That doesn't sound right," she said quietly. It wasn't. She was silent for a moment. Then she turned back to her screen. "I'm going to flag this as a potential wrongful termination. That means you'll qualify for benefits while we investigate. It also means your former employer will be contacted for their version of events." Marcus felt a flicker of hope. What happens then? "If we find that you were terminated without proper cause, you may have grounds for legal action." She handed him a stack of papers. "Fill these out and bring them back. In the meantime, your benefits should start within 2 weeks." 2 weeks, Marcus repeated. 2 weeks of no income. 2 weeks of wondering how he was going to feed his daughter. The woman seemed to read his thoughts. "There's a food bank on Maple Street. They're open Tuesdays and Thursdays. No questions asked." Marcus took the papers. "Thank you." He walked out of the unemployment office into the gray November afternoon. The sky was heavy with clouds threatening more rain. He stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, looking at the papers in his hands. Food bank. He had never been to a food bank before. Never had to. But now, his phone buzzed. It was Mrs. Patterson. "Marcus, Maya's school called. She's running a fever. They want someone to pick her up." Marcus closed his eyes. "I'm on my way." When he arrived at the school, Maya was sitting in the nurse's office with a damp cloth on her forehead. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes glassy, and she looked smaller than usual, wrapped in her pink jacket. "Daddy!" She reached for him, and Marcus swept her up into his arms. "Hey, baby girl. Not feeling good? My head hurts," Maya whimpered. "And my throat is scratchy." The nurse, a kind-faced woman with silver hair, handed Marcus a bottle of children's Tylenol. "Her temperature was 101. Probably just a cold, but keep an eye on her. If it goes above 103, take her to the doctor." "I will, thank you." Marcus carried Maya out to Mrs. Patterson's car. She had driven him to the school since his truck was still dead, and buckled her into the back seat. "Poor thing," Mrs. Patterson said, looking at Maya in the rearview mirror. "She was fine this morning." Kids are like that. Fine 1 minute, sick the next. "Do you have medicine at home?" Marcus looked at the bottle in his hand. "This should help. If she needs anything else, I'll—" He stopped. He couldn't afford anything else. Mrs. Patterson seemed to understand. "I've got some children's cold medicine at my place. And some soup. Chicken noodle. Maya loves chicken noodle." "Mrs. Patterson, you've already done so much." "Hush." She reached back and patted his hand. "Let people help you, Marcus. That's what community is for." That evening, Marcus sat beside Maya's bed watching her sleep. Her fever had gone down after the Tylenol, and she was breathing easier now. Mrs. Patterson's chicken noodle soup had helped too. Maya had eaten half a bowl before falling asleep mid-sentence about the butterflies she'd learned about at school. Marcus smoothed her hair back from her forehead. She looked so much like LaShonda. The same curl pattern, the same nose, the same way her lips parted slightly when she slept. Sometimes looking at her was like looking at a ghost, a beautiful living ghost of the woman he had loved more than anything in the world. "I don't know what I'm doing, Lash," Marcus whispered to the empty room. I'm trying so hard, but I don't know if I'm enough." The room was silent, but somewhere in his memory he heard LaShonda's voice. "You're always enough, baby. You just have to believe it." He bent down and kissed Maya's forehead. "I love you, baby girl, more than anything." Then he went to the kitchen, sat down at the table, and stared at the stack of bills he couldn't pay. 3 days passed. Marcus spent them filling out job applications, calling every restaurant and diner in a 15-mile radius, and taking care of Maya, whose cold lingered longer than expected. Mrs. Patterson helped where she could, bringing over meals and watching Maya, while Marcus went to interviews that led nowhere. No one was hiring, or rather, no one was hiring someone who had been fired from his last job for tardiness. Derek Matthews hadn't just taken Marcus's job, he had poisoned his ability to get another one. On Thursday afternoon, Marcus was sitting on his couch staring at his phone when it rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe right. Hello? Is this Marcus Turner? The voice was professional clipped, not a telemarketer. Yes. Who's this? My name is James Porter. I'm calling on behalf of Victoria Chen. Marcus frowned. Victoria Chen. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. I'm sorry, who? Victoria Chen, the owner of Riverside Diner. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Victoria. The woman from the storm. The woman he had rescued on the side of the road, brought home fed soup to. She was the owner of Riverside Diner. Mr. Turner, are you there? Yeah. Marcus's voice came out hoarse. Yeah, I'm here. Ms. Chen would like to meet with you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, at the diner. The diner. Marcus shook his head, even though the man couldn't see him. I can't go back there. I was fired. Ms. Chen is aware of that. She's also aware of the circumstances surrounding your termination. She would like to discuss them with you in person. Marcus was silent. Mr. Turner, I can assure you that this meeting is in your interest. Ms. Chen has discovered some troubling information about your former manager, information that may change your situation significantly. Marcus's heart was pounding. What kind of information? That's for Ms. Chen to share. But I can tell you this, Derek Matthews is not going to be managing that diner much longer. Marcus sat back against the couch, his mind reeling. Victoria Chen was the owner. Victoria Chen had witnessed everything. Victoria Chen was going to do something about it. Mr. Turner? I'll be there, Marcus said. 9 o'clock. Excellent. Ms. Chen will be pleased. The line went dead. Marcus sat in the silence of his apartment staring at his phone. For the first time in 4 days, he felt something other than despair. He felt hope. That night, Marcus told Mrs. Patterson everything. They sat at her kitchen table, cups of tea growing cold between them, while Marcus explained about Victoria, the storm, the rescue, the soup, the note she'd left. And now the phone call. She was in the diner. Mrs. Patterson's eyes were wide. She saw what Derek did to you. Apparently. And she's the owner. That's what the man said. Mrs. Patterson sat back in her chair, shaking her head slowly. Marcus Turner, do you realize what this means? I'm not sure I do. It means that God put you on that road for a reason. She reached across the table and took his hands. You stopped to help a stranger, and that stranger turned out to be the one person who could help you. That's not coincidence. That's providence. Marcus wanted to believe her, but he had learned a long time ago not to trust in miracles. What if it doesn't change anything? He asked. What if she just wants to apologize and move on? Then you'll be exactly where you are now. But something tells me that's not why she's calling. Marcus looked at his hands, calloused strong, the hands of a man who had worked hard his whole life. The same hands that had helped Victoria out of her broken-down car. The same hands that had held Maya when she cried for her mother. I just want to take care of my daughter, he said quietly. That's all I've ever wanted. I know, honey. Mrs. Patterson squeezed his hands. And maybe this is how it happens. Friday morning came gray and cold. Marcus woke before dawn, unable to sleep. He showered, shaved, and put on the nicest clothes he owned, a button-down shirt and khakis that LaShonda had bought him for their anniversary 3 years ago. Maya was still asleep, her fever finally broken. Mrs. Patterson would watch her for the morning. You look handsome, Daddy. Maya said sleepily when he came to kiss her goodbye. Thank you, baby girl. I have an important meeting today. For a job. Maybe, we'll see. Maya smiled. Good luck, Daddy. Mommy says you're gonna be okay. Marcus felt his throat tighten. She told you that. In my dream last night, she said someone nice is going to help you, like you helped that lady in the rain. Marcus stared at his daughter, wondering how she could possibly know about Victoria. But then again, Maya had always been special. She seemed to know things she shouldn't know, feel things she shouldn't feel. Just like her mother. I love you, baby girl. I love you too, Daddy. Forever and ever. Marcus walked to the diner. It was only 2 miles, and he needed time to think. The morning air was crisp, the streets still quiet. Shop owners were opening their doors, setting out sidewalk signs, preparing for another day. Normal life, continuing on as it always did. Marcus reached Riverside Diner at 5 minutes to 9. He stood outside for a long moment looking at the building that had been his second home for 4 years. The same windows he had cleaned countless times. The same door he had walked through thousands of mornings. The same sign now slightly faded that had once filled him with pride. Now it just filled him with dread. But he had come this far. He pushed open the door, the chime rang, and every head in the diner turned to look at him. Derek Matthews was behind the counter. His face went white when he saw Marcus. What the hell are you doing here? Derek's voice cracked. I fired you. You have no right. He has every right. The voice came from the corner booth. Victoria Chen stood up, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, her expression calm, but her eyes burning with barely contained fury. Beside her sat a man Marcus didn't recognize, tall, serious, carrying a leather briefcase. Derek's jaw dropped. Ms. Chen, I wasn't expecting you until... Clearly. Victoria walked toward the counter, her heels clicking against the tile floor. Because if you had known I was coming, you might have tried to hide the evidence. Evidence? Derek's face went from white to red. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about the $3,000 you've stolen from this diner over the past 3 months. Victoria's voice carried across the room. Every customer, every employee was watching. I'm talking about the falsified receipts, the inflated supply costs, the cash that somehow disappeared from the register. Derek sputtered. That's ridiculous. Someone must have... James. Victoria nodded to the man beside her. James Porter opened his briefcase and pulled out a laptop. He set it on the counter and turned the screen toward Derek. A video began to play. Derek alone in the diner after closing time. Derek opening the cash register. Derek pulling out a stack of bills and stuffing them into his jacket pocket. The diner was silent. Derek stared at the screen, his face ashen. That's been altered. We have 7 more videos just like it, James said calmly. All time-stamped, all authenticated. We also have your bank statements showing cash deposits that don't match your salary. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Victoria stepped closer to him, her voice dropping to something cold and deadly. You stole from my business. You terrorized my employees. And you assaulted and fired a good man for the crime of being 5 minutes late. She paused. A good man who the night before stopped to help a stranger in a storm. Who brought that stranger into his home. Who shared his food and his time and his kindness without asking for anything in return. She turned to look at Marcus. That stranger was me. The silence in the diner was absolute. Derek's face twisted. This is insane. You can't just... I can, and I am. Victoria turned back to him. Derek Matthews, you're fired. Effective immediately. And if you're not out of this building in the next 30 seconds, James will call the police and have you arrested for theft and assault. Derek looked around the diner, searching for allies, for anyone who might defend him. No one moved. No one spoke. He was alone. This isn't over, Derek hissed. I'll sue. You'll do nothing. Victoria's voice was ice. Because if you try, I'll release these videos to every news outlet in Atlanta. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are." She stepped even closer. "Now get out of my diner." Derek grabbed his jacket from behind the counter. He walked toward the door, his head down, his shoulders slumped. As he passed Marcus, he stopped. "This is your fault," he whispered. "All of this. You think you've won? You're nobody. You're nothing. Without her, you'd still be. Without her." Marcus said quietly, "I'd still be the same man I was. The man who stopped to help a stranger. The man who does the right thing, even when it costs me." He met Derek's eyes. "Can you say the same?" Derek's face contorted with rage. But he had no answer. He pushed through the door and disappeared into the morning. The chime rang one final time. And then, he was gone. The door swung shut behind Derek, and for a moment, nobody in the diner moved. Then Tommy Rivers started clapping. It began slowly, just his big, calloused hands coming together in the kitchen doorway. But then Lisa joined in, tears streaming down her face. And then the customers, one by one, table by table, until the whole diner was filled with applause. Marcus stood in the middle of it all, feeling like he was watching from outside his own body. Victoria walked toward him, her expression softening for the first time since she had arrived. "Marcus?" "You're the owner," he said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "You've been the owner this whole time." "Since last year. I bought the place as an investment." She paused. "I never visited. I trusted the numbers. I trusted Derek." Her jaw tightened. "I was wrong. Why didn't you tell me that night when I picked you up?" "Would it have mattered?" Marcus thought about it. The rain, the broken-down car, the woman standing alone in the storm. Would he have stopped if he'd known she was wealthy, if he'd known she owned the diner where he worked? "No," he admitted. "I would have helped you anyway." "I know." Victoria smiled slightly. "That's why I didn't tell you. I wanted to see what kind of man you really were. And now I know." The applause had faded. The diner was quiet again, everyone watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Victoria turned to address the room. "My name is Victoria Chen. I own Riverside Diner, and I owe all of you an apology." She looked at Lisa, at Tommy, at the part-time employees huddled near the kitchen. "I should have been here. I should have known what was happening. I let a man like Derek Matthews run this place into the ground, and good people suffered because of my negligence." Lisa wiped her eyes. "It's not your fault, Ms. Chen. You couldn't have known." "I should have made it my business to know." Victoria's voice was firm. "But I'm here now, and things are going to change." She turned back to Marcus. "Marcus Turner, I'm reinstating you immediately. Full back pay for the days you missed, and I'm promoting you to co-manager of Riverside Diner." Marcus felt his knees go weak. "Co-manager. You know this place better than anyone. You know the customers, the staff, the operations, and more importantly, I trust you." Victoria extended her hand. "What do you say?" Marcus looked at her hand. He thought about Maya, about the bills piled up on his kitchen table, about the food bank he had been too proud to visit. He thought about 4 years of serving tables, 4 years of keeping his head down, 4 years of hoping that hard work would eventually pay off. Maybe it finally had. He took her hand. "I say yes." The diner erupted in cheers again. Tommy came out of the kitchen and slapped Marcus on the back so hard he nearly fell over. Lisa threw her arms around him, sobbing and laughing at the same time. Even the customers were smiling strangers caught up in a moment of unexpected joy. But in the middle of all the celebration, Marcus felt something else. A quiet voice in the back of his mind warning him that this wasn't over. Derek Matthews wasn't the kind of man who walked away quietly. And Marcus was right. 2 hours later, after the morning rush had settled, and the diner had returned to something like normal, Victoria called Marcus into the back office. James Porter was already there, his laptop open on the desk, papers spread out in neat piles. "Close the door," Victoria said. Marcus did. "There's something else you need to know," she continued. "Derek didn't just steal money. He's been manipulating the books for months, inflating expenses, skimming cash, falsifying reports." She gestured to the papers. "James has been investigating since Tuesday. What he found is worse than I thought." James turned the laptop toward Marcus. On the screen was a spreadsheet, rows and columns of numbers that made Marcus's head spin. "Total theft over 3 months, approximately $3,200, James said. "But that's just the cash skimming. When you add in the inflated supply costs, the kickbacks from vendors, the overtime he claimed but never worked, we're looking at closer to $8,000. Marcus stared at the screen. $8,000. "And that's what we can prove," James added. "There may be more we haven't found yet." Victoria leaned forward. "Here's the thing, Marcus. We have enough evidence to have Derek arrested. But if we go to the police now, he might try to destroy records, threaten witnesses, or disappear altogether. So what do? We set a trap." Victoria's eyes were cold, calculating. "Derek doesn't know we have all this evidence. He thinks we only caught him stealing from the register. If we can get him to admit to the rest on tape, we'll have an airtight case." Marcus shook his head slowly. "You want me to help you trap him? I want you to be there when it happens. You deserve to see justice done." Marcus thought about Derek's face when he'd left the diner, the hatred in his eyes, the whispered threat. "This is your fault. All of this." "He's not going to come back here willingly," Marcus said. "Not after what happened. He will if he thinks there's something to gain." Victoria smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I'm going to call him. Tell him I made a mistake firing him publicly like that. Tell him I want to discuss severance, a generous severance if he agrees to sign a non-disclosure agreement." "You think he'll believe that?" "Derek Matthews is greedy. He's also arrogant. He'll believe whatever lets him think he's winning." She paused. "The meeting is tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I want you here." Marcus nodded slowly. "I'll be here." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Maya's soft breathing from the room next door. His mind kept replaying the day's events. Derek's face when the video played, Victoria's hand extended in partnership, the applause of people who barely knew him but were happy for him anyway. It felt like a dream. But dreams had a way of turning into nightmares. At 2 in the morning, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him reach for it. "Hello? You think you've won?" Derek's voice was low, slurred. He'd been drinking. "You think this is over?" Marcus sat up slowly. "Derek. Don't say my name like we're friends. We were never friends. You were always beneath me. A waiter. A nobody." Derek laughed bitterly. "And now you think you're going to be manager. You think Victoria Chen actually cares about you. I think she cares about doing the right thing." "The right thing." Derek spat the words. "There is no right thing. There's only winning and losing. And I don't lose." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you going to do, Derek?" "Whatever I have to." The line went dead. Marcus sat in the dark, his heart pounding. He should call Victoria, tell her about the threat. But what would that accomplish? Derek was drunk, angry, lashing out. By morning, he'd probably regret making the call at all. Still, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was coming. He didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the diner at 8:30. Victoria was already there along with James and a man Marcus didn't recognize, tall, serious, with a badge clipped to his belt. "Marcus, this is Detective Williams," Victoria said. "He's been briefed on the situation. He'll be in the back room during the meeting listening. If Derek admits to anything criminal, Williams will make the arrest." Marcus shook the detective's hand. "Nice to meet you." "Likewise." Williams studied him with sharp eyes. "Ms. Chen tells me you're the reason we caught this guy. Says you showed her what kind of man her manager really was." "I didn't do anything special. You helped a stranger in a storm," Williams interrupted. "In my experience, that's rarer than you think." The front door chimed. Everyone turned. Derek Matthews walked in. He looked different than he had the day before. His suit was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, his eyes bloodshot. He hadn't shaved, and his hands trembled slightly as he approached the counter. "Ms. Chen," his voice was hoarse. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Victoria's expression gave nothing away. "Have a seat, Derek. We have a lot to discuss." They sat in a corner booth, Victoria across from Derek, Marcus beside her. James and Detective Williams were in the back room watching through a concealed camera recording everything. "Coffee?" Victoria asked. "No." Derek rubbed his face. "Let's just get this over with. You said something about severance." "I did." Victoria folded her hands on the table. "What happened yesterday was unfortunate. I let my emotions get the better of me. Public confrontations like that, they're not good for business." Derek's eyes narrowed. "So you're admitting you made a mistake?" "I'm admitting that I could have handled it better." Victoria paused. "The truth is, Derek, you were a valuable manager. The numbers were always good. The diner ran smoothly. I can't ignore 4 years of solid performance just because of some irregularities." Marcus felt his stomach turn. He knew Victoria was acting, knew this was all part of the trap. But hearing her praise Derek even falsely made him sick. Derek seemed to relax slightly. "I appreciate that, Ms. Chen. I really do. I've been under a lot of pressure lately. The cost of living in Atlanta, you know how it is. Sometimes you make choices you're not proud of." "We all do." Victoria leaned forward. "Tell me about those choices, Derek. Help me understand." Derek hesitated. His eyes flicked to Marcus, then back to Victoria. "Why is he here?" "Marcus is my co-manager now. Whatever we discuss, he needs to hear." Derek's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "Fine. What do you want to know?" "Start with the register." Victoria's voice was gentle, almost sympathetic. "How long have you been taking cash?" 6 months. Derek shrugged. "Maybe longer. It started small, 50 here, 100 there, just enough to cover some bills. I always meant to pay it back." "But you didn't." "No." Derek looked down at his hands. "It got easier. After a while, I didn't even think about it. It was just there." Marcus watched him, trying to understand how a person could steal from their own workplace, terrorize their employees, and still sit here making excuses. "What about the suppliers?" Victoria continued. "James found inflated invoices going back months, kickbacks from vendors. That's not $50 here and there, Derek. That's systematic fraud." Derek's face went pale. "You found that?" "We found everything." For a moment, Derek said nothing. Then something shifted in his expression. The fear dissolved, replaced by something harder, something dangerous. "So this was never about severance," he said quietly. "This was about getting me to confess." Victoria didn't flinch. "This was about giving you a chance to tell the truth." "The truth." Derek laughed, a hollow, ugly sound. "You want the truth, fine. Yes, I stole money. Yes, I took kickbacks. Yes, I cooked the books. And you know what, I'd do it again." "Why?" "Because I deserved it." Derek's voice rose. "I ran this place for 4 years. 4 years of dealing with incompetent employees, demanding customers, endless problems. And what did I get? A salary that barely covered my rent. No bonuses, no recognition, no respect." He jabbed a finger at Victoria. "You bought this diner and never even showed up. Never cared how it was run. Just cashed the checks and moved on to your next investment. So you decided to help yourself. Someone had to." Derek turned to Marcus, his eyes blazing. "And you, standing there like you're some kind of hero. You know what you are? You're a sucker. A pathetic, naive sucker who thinks hard work actually matters." Marcus met his gaze. "It matters to me." "Then you're a fool." Derek stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. I'm done with this. You want to call the police? Go ahead. I'll deny everything. It's your word against mine. Actually, Victoria said calmly, it's your word against yours. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. Derek's voice filled the diner. Yes, I stole money. Yes, I took kickbacks. Yes, I cooked the books. And you know what? I'd do it again. Derek froze. The backroom door opened, and Detective Williams stepped out. Derek Matthews, he said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. You're under arrest for theft, fraud, and falsifying financial records. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Derek's face contorted with rage. He lunged toward Victoria, but Williams was faster. He grabbed Derek's arm and twisted it behind his back, slamming him against the nearest table. Don't make this worse for yourself, Williams said, snapping the cuffs into place. Derek struggled, his face pressed against the table, his eyes locked on Marcus. This isn't over, he hissed. You hear me? This isn't over. Yes, it is, Marcus said quietly. It's been over since the moment you decided to hurt people instead of help them. Derek spat at him. Missed. Williams hauled him upright and pushed him toward the door. Let's go. The diner watched in stunned silence as Derek was led outside. Through the window, they could see a police car waiting, its lights flashing. Williams opened the back door and guided Derek inside. Then the car pulled away, and Derek Matthews was gone. Victoria exhaled slowly. It's done. Marcus nodded, but he didn't feel victorious. He felt tired and sad and strangely empty. He was right about one thing, Marcus said. Victoria looked at him. What? You did neglect this place. You bought it and never looked back. He met her eyes. That's part of why Derek was able to do what he did. Victoria was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. You're right. I did neglect it. And I'm not going to make that mistake again. She extended her hand. That's why I need you, Marcus, to help me make this place what it should be, what it could be. Marcus looked at her hand, then at the diner around them, the worn booths, the faded menu boards, the staff watching anxiously from behind the counter. His diner now, his responsibility. He took her hand. Let's get to work. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Victoria held a staff meeting explaining what had happened and what would change going forward. She announced raises for everyone, new equipment for the kitchen, and a commitment to being more present in the daily operations. Lisa cried again, happy tears this time. Tommy shook Marcus's hand so hard it hurt for an hour afterward. The part-time employees looked shell-shocked but hopeful. By the time the dinner shift ended, Marcus was exhausted in a way he had never been before. Not the physical exhaustion of carrying plates and wiping tables, but something deeper. Emotional, spiritual. He sat alone in the empty diner. The lights dimmed the chairs stacked on the tables. His phone buzzed. Mrs. Patterson. Marcus, just wanted to let you know Maya's doing great. Her fever's completely gone. She wants to know if you're coming home soon. Tell her I'm on my way. How did it go today? Marcus thought about everything that had happened. The confession, the arrest, the handshake that changed his life. It was a good day, Mrs. Patterson. A really good day. I'm so glad, honey. You deserve it. He hung up and looked around the diner one more time. 4 years ago, he had walked through that door as a desperate man, looking for any job that would pay the bills. He had kept his head down, done his work, never complained. He had survived the death of his wife, raised his daughter alone, and somehow kept going when everything in him wanted to stop. And now, here he was. Co-manager, partner, maybe even friend to a woman who owned half of Atlanta's real estate. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Except maybe it did. Maybe his father had been right all along. The measure of a man isn't what he has. It's what he does when no one's watching. Marcus had stopped to help a stranger in a storm. He hadn't known who she was, hadn't cared. He had just seen someone who needed help, and decided to be the person who helped. That was all. That was everything. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the door. Maya was waiting. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus Turner walked home feeling like everything was going to be okay. When he got home, Maya was sitting on the couch with Mrs. Patterson watching cartoons. The moment she saw him, she jumped up and ran into his arms. "Daddy?" He caught her, lifted her, held her tight. "Hey, baby girl, how are you feeling?" "All better." She pulled back and looked at his face. "You look happy, Daddy." "I am happy." "Did something good happen?" Marcus thought about how to explain. About Derek, about Victoria, about everything that had changed. "You know how you told me Mommy said someone nice was going to help me?" Maya nodded seriously. "In my dream." "Well, she was right. Someone nice did help me. And now Daddy has a new job." Maya's eyes went wide. "A new job. At the same diner but better. I'm going to be in charge of things now. Like a boss. Kinda like a boss. Yeah." Maya threw her arms around his neck. "I knew it. I told you Mommy was right." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them back. "Yeah, baby girl, Mommy was right." Mrs. Patterson stood in the doorway watching them with misty eyes. "I'll leave you two alone," she said softly. "You've got some celebrating to do." "Mrs. Patterson." Marcus reached out and caught her hand. "Thank you. For everything. I don't know what I would have done without you." She patted his cheek. "You would have figured it out. You always do." She smiled. "But I'm glad I could help." After she left, Marcus and Maya sat on the couch together. He made her favorite dinner, mac and cheese with hot dogs cut up in it, and they watched her favorite movie, the one about the princess who didn't need a prince to save her. Halfway through, Maya fell asleep against his shoulder. Marcus sat there in the dim glow of the television, listening to his daughter breathe, feeling the warmth of her small body against his. He thought about LaShonda. About what she would say if she could see them now. Probably something like, "I told you so, baby. I always told you so." He smiled and kissed the top of Maya's head. "We're going to be okay, Lash," he whispered. "We're going to be okay." Somewhere, somehow, he could almost hear her answer. "I know, baby. I always knew." 3 weeks passed, and Riverside Diner slowly began to transform. Marcus arrived every morning at 6 an hour before opening. He walked through the empty diner in the gray dawn light, checking supplies, reviewing the schedule, making sure everything was ready for another day. It was strange being on this side of things. For 4 years, he had taken orders. Now, he was giving them. It didn't come naturally. "You're doing it wrong," Tommy said one morning, watching Marcus struggle with the inventory system on the office computer. Marcus looked up frustrated. "I've been trying to figure this out for an hour." "That's because Derek made it complicated on purpose." Tommy leaned over his shoulder and clicked a few buttons. "See? He added all these extra steps so no one else could understand the system. Made him feel important. And made it easier to hide what he was stealing." "That too." Tommy straightened up. "You want my advice?" "Always. Stop trying to do everything yourself. You're not Derek. You don't have to control every little thing." Tommy crossed his arms. "Lisa knows the front of house better than anyone. Let her handle scheduling. I know the kitchen. Let me handle inventory. Your job is to keep us all moving in the same direction." Marcus sat back in his chair. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. People just don't listen to the cook." Tommy grinned. "Now come on. Breakfast rush starts in 20 minutes and I need you on the floor." Marcus followed him out of the office, thinking about what Tommy had said. Stop trying to do everything yourself. It was the opposite of what he had learned in 4 years of working under Derek. Keep your head down. Don't make waves. Handle your own problems. Never rely on anyone. But Tommy was right. That wasn't leadership. That was survival. And Marcus was done just surviving. The morning rush hit hard as it always did. Marcus worked the floor alongside Lisa, taking orders, refilling coffee clearing tables. It felt good to be back in the rhythm of things, even if his new responsibilities meant he couldn't just disappear into the work like he used to. Around 9:30, Victoria walked in. She had been coming by every few days, checking on the diner's progress meeting with Marcus to discuss plans for improvement. Today she was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, a far cry from the tailored suits she usually wore. "Morning," she said, sliding into a booth. Marcus grabbed the coffee pot and walked over. "You're early." "Couldn't sleep." She accepted the cup he poured. "Too much on my mind." "Business stuff. Life stuff." Victoria wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "Can you sit for a minute?" Marcus glanced at the diner. The rush was slowing down, and Lisa had things under control. He slid into the booth across from her. "What's going on?" Victoria was quiet for a moment, staring into her coffee. "I've been thinking about what you said. About how I neglected this place. About how that's part of why Derek was able to do what he did. I didn't mean to. No, you were right." She looked up at him. "I've spent the last 10 years building a business empire. Buying properties, making investments, watching the numbers grow. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that behind every number is a person." Marcus didn't say anything. He just listened. "My father started with nothing," Victoria continued. "He came to this country with $50 in his pocket and built a restaurant from the ground up. Worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. Made sure every customer felt like family." She smiled sadly. "He would be ashamed of what I've become." "What you've become." "A person who buys things and doesn't care about them. A person who trusts spreadsheets more than people." She set down her coffee. "When my car broke down that night, I had been coming back from a meeting about acquiring another company. 30 employees, most of them immigrants like my father. And I was sitting there talking about restructuring and streamlining operations, like those words didn't mean people losing their jobs." Marcus leaned forward. "But you didn't go through with it." "No, I didn't." Victoria met his eyes. "Because of you." "Me? You stopped to help a stranger in a storm. You brought me into your home, shared your food, told me about your daughter. You treated me like a human being, not a problem to be solved." She paused. "When was the last time someone did that for me? I couldn't remember." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't the Victoria Chen who had swept into the diner and dismantled Derek Matthews with cold precision. This was someone else, someone vulnerable, someone lost. "My wife used to say something," Marcus said quietly. "She said the world doesn't need more successful people. It needs more kind people. More people who pay attention. More people who stop." She sounds wise. She was the wisest person I ever knew. Marcus felt the familiar ache of missing LaShonda, but it was softer now, less sharp. "I try to live by that. Some days I fail, but I keep trying." Victoria nodded slowly. "I want to try too. I want to be better." She looked around the diner. This place, it could be something special, a real community hub, a place where people feel welcome where they belong, not just another investment. "What did you have in mind?" Victoria pulled out her phone and showed him some sketches. "I've been working with a designer. New booths, updated kitchen equipment, a community board where local businesses can post announcements. And I want to start a scholarship fund for employees who want to go back to school." Marcus stared at the designs. This is incredible." "It's a start." Victoria put the phone away. "But I need your help to make it work. You know this community. You know what people need. I'm just the person with the checkbook." "You're more than that." Victoria smiled a real smile, not the polished professional one she usually wore. "I'm learning to be." Lisa appeared at the table looking flustered. "Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a situation." Marcus stood immediately. "What kind of situation?" "There's a man at the counter, Says he's from the health department, wants to do an inspection. Victoria frowned. We're not due for an inspection for another 3 months. That's what I told him. He says it's a random audit. Lisa lowered her voice. Marcus, I don't like the way he's looking around. Like he's searching for something to find. Marcus and Victoria exchanged a glance. Derek, Victoria said. You think he sent someone? I think a man facing prison has nothing to lose. Victoria stood up. Let me handle this. They walked to the counter together. A heavy-set man in a rumpled suit was standing there, clipboard in hand, peering into the kitchen with narrowed eyes. Can I help you? Victoria asked, her voice pleasant but firm. The man turned. I'm Inspector Reynolds, Health Department. I'm here to conduct a surprise inspection. May I see your credentials? Reynolds hesitated, then pulled out an ID badge. Victoria examined it carefully. This badge expired 6 months ago, she said. Reynolds' face went red. That's a clerical error. The department is behind on renewals. I see. Victoria pulled out her phone. Well, let me just call the health department to verify. I'm sure they can clear this up. Reynolds grabbed her wrist. That won't be necessary. The diner went quiet. Marcus stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. Take your hand off her. Reynolds looked at Marcus, seemed to calculate his odds, and let go. I'm going to ask you one question, Victoria said calmly, and I want an honest answer. Did Derek Matthews send you here? Reynolds' eyes darted toward the door. That's what I thought. Victoria stepped closer to him. Listen carefully. Whatever Derek promised you, it's not worth it. He's facing multiple felony charges. Anyone who helps him obstruct justice will go down with him. Reynolds swallowed hard. He said it would be easy money. Just find some violations, write them up, cause some trouble. And you believed him. He paid me $500 up front. Reynolds looked miserable. I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage. I have kids. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. What's your real job? I work at a warehouse, loading dock. Reynolds hung his head. I got laid off last month. Derek found me at a bar, said he had a way I could make some quick cash. Marcus watched this exchange, feeling his anger slowly give way to something else. This man wasn't evil. He was desperate. Just like Marcus had been desperate not so long ago. Give me the clipboard, Victoria said. Reynolds handed it over. Now go home. Take care of your kids. And if Derek contacts you again, you tell him Victoria Chen has a very good lawyer and an even better memory. She paused. Do you understand? Reynolds nodded rapidly. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He practically ran out of the diner. When he was gone, Lisa let out a breath. That was intense. That was Derek, Marcus said grimly. Testing us, seeing if he can still cause damage from the outside. Victoria's jaw was tight. I need to make a call. She stepped away, phone pressed to her ear. Marcus could hear fragments of the conversation, restraining order. Witness intimidation. Additional charges. Tommy emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. What did I miss? Derek sent a fake inspector to try to shut us down. Tommy's expression darkened. That man never quits. No. Marcus agreed. He doesn't. But neither do we, he thought. Neither do we. That afternoon, Marcus picked Maya up from school. She came running out with her backpack, bouncing a piece of paper clutched in her hand, her face bright with excitement. Daddy, Daddy, look what I made. Marcus bent down and took the paper. It was a drawing crayons on construction paper of a building with a sign that read Riverside Diner in wobbly letters. In front of the building stood 3 figures, a tall brown man, a small brown girl with curly hair, and a woman with black hair. That's you, and that's me, and that's Miss Victoria, Maya explained, pointing to each figure. Because she's your friend now, right? Marcus felt something catch in his throat. Yeah, baby. She's my friend. I like her. She has nice eyes. Maya tugged his hand. Can we go to the diner? I want to show her my picture. I don't know if she's still there. Please, Daddy, please, please, please. Marcus looked at his daughter's eager face and felt his resistance crumble. Okay, but just for a few minutes. When they arrived at the diner, Victoria was still there, sitting in the same booth, working on her laptop. She looked up when the door chimed and smiled when she saw Maya. Well, hello there. You must be the famous Maya I've heard so much about. Maya suddenly went shy, hiding behind Marcus's leg. Hi, she said in a tiny voice. She wanted to show you something, Marcus said. Maya peeked out and held up her drawing. I made this for you. Victoria took the paper and studied it with genuine attention. This is beautiful, Maya. Is this the diner? Maya nodded, coming out from behind Marcus's leg. And that's Daddy, and that's me, and that's you. I love it. Victoria looked at Maya with soft eyes. Can I keep it? Really? Really. I'm going to hang it in my office. Victoria patted the seat beside her. Do you want to sit with me for a minute? Your daddy tells me you like to draw. Maya looked up at Marcus for permission. He nodded, and she scrambled into the booth beside Victoria. I draw lots of things. Maya said, her shyness evaporating. Butterflies and flowers and my mommy in heaven. Victoria's expression flickered, but she recovered quickly. Your daddy told me about your mommy. She sounds like she was a wonderful person. She was the best. Maya leaned closer to Victoria as if sharing a secret. She talks to me sometimes, in my dreams. What does she say? She says Daddy is doing a good job and that good things are going to happen to us. Maya looked at Victoria with clear, knowing eyes. I think you're one of the good things. Victoria blinked rapidly. For a moment, Marcus thought she might cry. Thank you, Maya, she said softly. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Lisa brought over a slice of chocolate cake, on the house, and Maya dug in happily while Marcus and Victoria talked. She's remarkable, Victoria said quietly. She's everything. Marcus watched his daughter, chocolate smeared on her chin, chattering to Lisa about her favorite cartoon. After LaShonda died, I didn't know how I was going to keep going. But Maya, she gave me a reason. Every single day. She looks at you like you hung the moon. She looks at everyone like that. It's just who she is. Marcus paused. LaShonda was the same way. She saw the best in people even when they couldn't see it in themselves. You must miss her terribly. Every day. Marcus took a breath. But it's different now. The missing used to feel like drowning. Now it's more like a scar. It's always there, but it doesn't hurt the same way. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I've never lost anyone like that. My parents are still alive. My brother lives in California. I've been so focused on building my career that I never really connected with anyone. Never. I had relationships, but they were always secondary to work. I told myself there would be time later. Time to fall in love. Time to have a family, time to be a whole person. She smiled bitterly. Funny how later never comes. Marcus understood that feeling all too well. The way life kept moving forward, whether you were ready or not. The way opportunities slipped away while you were looking in the other direction. It's not too late, he said. Maybe not. Victoria looked at Maya, who was now showing Lisa her drawing. But I think I need to learn some things first. How to slow down. How to pay attention. How to be the kind of person who stops for strangers in the rain. You already stopped, Marcus said. That night you came into the diner. You could have just fired Derek and walked away. But you didn't. You stayed. You cared. Only because you showed me how. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Maya and Lisa laugh together. Finally, Victoria spoke again. I want to do something. For Maya. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? Her school. I looked it up. It's decent, but there's a better one across town. Arts focused. Perfect for a child who loves to draw. Victoria held up her hand before Marcus could protest. I know what you're going to say, but this isn't charity, Marcus. This is an investment. An investment. In the future. In a little girl who sees the best in people. In a world that needs more people like her. Victoria's voice was firm. Let me do this. Please. Marcus felt his pride rising up, the instinct to refuse to insist he could take care of his own daughter. But then, he thought about Maya's drawings, about her talent, about the dreams she deserved to chase. Can I think about it? Of course. Victoria nodded. Take all the time you need. That night, after Maya was asleep, Marcus sat on the edge of his bed and pulled out the old photo album he kept in the nightstand drawer. LaShonda smiled up at him from a dozen pictures. Their wedding day. Maya's first birthday. That trip to the beach the summer before the accident. What do I do, Lash? He whispered. She wants to help. She wants to give Maya opportunities I could never afford. But accepting it feels like admitting I'm not enough. The photo didn't answer. It never did. But somewhere in the quiet of the room, Marcus felt a presence. A warmth. Like someone was sitting beside him just out of sight. You were always enough, baby. You just have to believe it. He could almost hear her voice. That gentle, patient voice that had talked him through so many doubts over the years. Accepting help doesn't mean you failed. It means you love her enough to give her what she needs, even if it comes from someone else. Marcus closed his eyes. She was right. She was always right. The next morning, Marcus called Victoria. I've thought about it, he said. Maya's school. I'll accept your offer. But I have conditions. Name them. First, Maya has to want to go. If she's happy where she is, we don't push it. Agreed. Second, this isn't a gift. It's a loan. When I'm able, I pay you back. Victoria paused. Marcus. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, a warm, surprised sound. You're the most stubborn man I've ever met. I've been told that before. Fine, loan it is, but the interest rate is 0 and there's no timeline for repayment. Deal. Marcus felt a smile tugging at his lips. Deal. That weekend, Marcus took Maya to visit the Greenwood Academy for Young Artists. The school was everything Victoria had promised, and more. Bright classrooms filled with easels and paint supplies, a music room with tiny violins and xylophones, a garden where students grew vegetables and learned about nature. Maya's eyes went wide the moment they walked through the front door. Daddy, she breathed. It's like a magic school. The admissions director, a kind woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, gave them a tour. She showed them the art studios, the performance space, the library filled with picture books and chapter books and everything in between. We focus on nurturing creativity, Mrs. Rodriguez explained. Every child has a unique way of seeing the world. Our job is to help them express it. Maya tugged on Marcus's hand. Daddy, they have a butterfly garden. Can you believe it? A real butterfly garden? Marcus looked down at his daughter's shining face, and something in his heart cracked open. Do you like it here, baby? I love it. Maya's voice was fierce. I love it so much. Marcus turned to Mrs. Rodriguez. What do we need to do to apply? We'll need transcripts from her current school, some samples of her artwork, and an interview. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. But based on what I've seen today, I think Maya would be a wonderful addition to our community. Maya grabbed Marcus's leg and hugged it tight. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Marcus knelt down and held her. Thank Miss Victoria. She's the one who made this possible. I will. I'll draw her the best picture ever. Maya pulled back her face, serious. Daddy, this is what Mommy meant. The good things. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Yeah, baby. I think you're right. On the drive home, Maya fell asleep in her car seat, exhausted from excitement. Marcus drove in silence, thinking about everything that had changed in the past month. He had been fired, humiliated, broken. And now here he was, co-manager of a diner friend, to a woman who could change lives with a phone call, father, to a daughter who was about to attend a school she deserved. It didn't make sense. Except it did. Because he had stopped to help a stranger in a storm. One small act of kindness rippling outward, changing everything. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. How did it go? He typed back. She loved it. Thank you. Her response came immediately. No, thank you. For showing me what matters. Marcus set down the phone and looked at Maya sleeping peacefully in the rearview mirror. For the first time in 2 years, he felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. But life had one more surprise waiting. The next morning, Marcus got a call from Detective Williams. Mr. Turner, I wanted to let you know Derek Matthews made bail last night. Marcus felt ice run through his veins. What? He had a friend who put up the money. He's out pending trial. Is that safe? After what he tried to do with the fake inspector? We've added witness intimidation to his charges, and there's a restraining order in place. He can't come within 500 feet of you, Victoria Chen or Riverside Diner. Williams paused. But I wanted you to know, just in case. Marcus hung up and stood in his kitchen, heart pounding. Derek was out. Derek who had threatened him. Derek who had sent someone to destroy the diner. Derek who had nothing left to lose. Marcus called Victoria. I heard, she said before he could speak. James just told me. What do? We be careful, we stay alert, and we don't let him win. Her voice was steel. Derek Matthews has already lost everything that mattered to him, his job, his reputation, his power. The only thing he has left is his anger. And anger makes people stupid. Or dangerous. Sometimes both. Victoria paused. Marcus, I'm going to hire security for the diner, just until the trial is over. Is that necessary? I'm not taking any chances, not with you, not with the staff, not with everything we're building. Her voice softened. We've come too far to let him destroy it now. Marcus looked out the window at the gray Atlanta morning. Somewhere out there, Derek Matthews was free. Somewhere out there, a man with nothing to lose was plotting his revenge. But Marcus had something Derek would never understand. He had people who cared about him, people who would stand beside him, people who would fight with him. And that made all the difference. Okay, Marcus said. Whatever you think is best. Stay safe, Marcus, I mean it. I will. He hung up and went to wake Maya for school. Whatever was coming, he would face it. He had faced worse and survived. And this time, he wasn't alone. The security guard Victoria hired was a quiet man named Franklin, who stood 6'4" and had arms like tree trunks. He positioned himself near the front door of Riverside Diner every morning and stayed until closing. His presence was reassuring, but it was also a constant reminder that danger was lurking somewhere out there. 2 weeks passed without incident. Marcus began to relax. Maybe Derek had given up. Maybe the threat of additional charges had scared him into keeping his distance. Maybe the whole thing would blow over once the trial happened, and Derek went to prison where he belonged. But Marcus should have known better. It was a Tuesday evening just after the dinner rush. The diner was quiet, only a few customers lingering over coffee and pie. Lisa had gone home early for a dentist appointment. Tommy was in the back cleaning the grill. Franklin had stepped outside to make a phone call. Marcus was behind the counter going over the day's receipts when the front door opened. He looked up. Derek Matthews stood in the doorway. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled, his face unshaven, his eyes bloodshot and wild. He had lost weight, his clothes hung off him like they belonged to someone else. But what caught Marcus's attention was what Derek held in his right hand. A gun. "Everyone out." Derek said, his voice eerily calm. "Now." The few customers in the diner scrambled for the door, pushing past Derek without looking back. Within seconds, the diner was empty except for Marcus and Derek. "Derek." Marcus kept his voice steady, even though his heart was hammering against his ribs. "Put the gun down." "Shut up." Derek stepped closer, the gun trained on Marcus's chest. "You don't get to tell me what to do. Not anymore. Not. This isn't going to help you. You're already facing charges. If you do this..." "If I do this, what?" Derek laughed, a broken, desperate sound. "I'm going to prison anyway. My life is over. My career, my reputation, everything I worked for gone. Because of you. You did this to yourself, Derek. You stole money. You hurt people. That's not my fault." "It is your fault." Derek's voice rose to a scream. "Everything was fine until you came along. I had this place running perfectly. I had control. And then you had to play. Hero had to rescue some woman in the rain. Had to make me look bad in front of the owner." Marcus took a slow breath. Victoria would have found out eventually. The money was missing. The books didn't add up. It was only a matter of time. But it wasn't eventually, was it? It was now. Because of you. Derek's hand shook, but the gun stayed pointed at Marcus. "You think you're better than me. You think you're some kind of saint because you help strangers and smile at customers and never complain? I don't think I'm better than anyone." "Yes, you do. Everyone does." Derek's eyes were wet now, tears mixing with rage. "My whole life, people have looked at me like I'm nothing. Like I don't matter. I had to claw my way up from nothing. I had to fight for every scrap. And when I finally get somewhere, finally have some power, you come along and take it all away." Marcus looked at the man in front of him, broken, desperate, alone, and felt something unexpected. Pity. "Derek," he said softly, "I know what it's like to feel invisible. I know what it's like to fight every day just to survive. But this isn't the answer. Hurting me won't give you your life back." "Maybe not." Derek's voice cracked. "But it'll make me feel better." "No, it won't." Marcus took a step forward. "It'll make everything worse. You'll go to prison for murder instead of theft. You'll never see the outside again. Is that what you want?" "I don't care anymore." "Yes, you do. Somewhere inside you still care." Marcus took another step. "Because if you didn't, you would have pulled that trigger already." Derek's hand trembled violently. Sweat dripped down his face. His finger tightened on the trigger. "Don't come any closer." "I'm not your enemy, Derek." Marcus held up his hands, palms out. "I never was. I was just a guy trying to take care of his daughter, that's all. I didn't want your job. I didn't want to expose you. I just wanted to work and go home and be with my kid." "Then why did you have to help her?" Derek's voice was a whisper now. "Why did you have to stop in that storm?" Marcus thought about that night. The rain hammering down. Victoria standing helpless by her broken car. The voice in his head telling him to keep driving, to not get involved, to take care of himself. And the other voice, his father's voice, LaShonda's voice, telling him to stop. "Because it was the right thing to do," Marcus said simply. "Because someone needed help, and I could give it. That's all." Derek stared at him. The gun wavered. "I've never had anyone help me," Derek said, and his voice broke completely. "Not once. My whole life. Everyone just took and took and took, and I learned to take back. That's the only way I knew how to survive." "I'm sorry," Marcus said, and he meant it. "I'm sorry no one was there for you. But it's not too late to be different. It's not too late to choose another way." The gun lowered an inch, then another. "It is too late," Derek whispered. "It's been too late for a long time." The front door burst open. Franklin came through first, followed by 2 police officers with weapons drawn. "Drop the gun. Now." Derek spun toward them, and for one terrible moment Marcus thought he was going to raise the weapon, thought the officers were going to fire, thought everything was about to end in blood and chaos. But Derek didn't raise the gun. He let it fall from his fingers. It clattered against the tile floor. And then he collapsed to his knees, sobbing. The officers rushed forward, cuffing him, reading him his rights. Franklin hurried to Marcus's side. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Marcus shook his head slowly. His legs felt like water. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. "I'm okay," he managed. "I'm okay." But he wasn't sure that was true. Victoria arrived 20 minutes later, her face pale with fear. "Marcus!" She pushed through the police officers and threw her arms around him. "I came as soon as I heard. Are you all right? Did he hurt you?" "I'm fine." Marcus held her for a moment, feeling her trembling against him. "He didn't hurt me." "Thank God." Victoria pulled back, her eyes wet. "When Franklin called and said Derek had a gun, I thought, I know." Marcus took her hands. "But it's over now. It's really over." They watched as the officers led Derek out of the diner. He didn't fight, didn't resist. He just walked with his head down, a broken man facing the consequences of his choices. "What happened in there?" Victoria asked. "Franklin said you were talking to him. For almost 10 minutes. Marcus thought about what to say. About Derek's desperation, his loneliness, his broken confession that no one had ever helped him. "I think I understood him," Marcus said finally. "I think if things had been different, if I hadn't had my father, hadn't had LaShonda, hadn't had people who loved me, I could have ended up like him." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "But you didn't." "No." Marcus looked at the door where Derek had disappeared. "I didn't." The police took statements. The diner was closed for the night. Marcus called Mrs. Patterson to let her know he would be late, that everything was fine, that he would explain later. When the last officer left, Marcus and Victoria sat alone in the empty diner. "I'm sorry," Victoria said. "This is my fault. I should have pushed for him to be held without bail. I should have—" "Stop." Marcus shook his head. "This wasn't your fault. It wasn't anyone's fault except Derek's. He made his choices. He has to live with them." "But you could have been killed." "But I wasn't." Marcus reached over and took her hand. "I'm still here. And tomorrow this diner is going to open its doors just like always. We're not going to let one broken man destroy what we're building." Victoria looked at him with something like wonder. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Keep going. Keep believing. After everything you've been through, losing your wife, raising Maya alone, getting fired, almost getting shot, how do you still have hope?" Marcus thought about it. Really thought about it. "Because hope is a choice," he said. "Every day you wake up and choose to believe that things can get better. Some days it's easy. Some days it's the hardest thing in the world. But you keep choosing, because the alternative is giving up. And I've got a little girl who needs me to keep going." Victoria squeezed his hand. "She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one." They sat in silence for a while. Two people who had been strangers 6 weeks ago, now bound together by circumstances neither could have predicted. "Marcus," Victoria said finally, "I've been thinking. About what? About everything. About this diner, about my business, about my life." She turned to face him. "When this started, I thought I was just fixing a problem, exposing a thief, cleaning up a mess. But it's become so much more than that." "What do you mean?" "I mean—" She paused, searching for the right words. "I've spent my whole adult life building things. Companies, portfolios, wealth. And I was good at it. Really good. But I was never happy. Not really. There was always something missing. And now I come to this diner, and I see Tommy whistling in the kitchen, and Lisa joking with customers, and you—" She stopped, her voice catching. And you making everyone feel like they matter. And I think maybe this is what I was missing. Connection. Community. Purpose. Marcus didn't know what to say, so he just listened. I want to do more, Victoria continued. Not just fix this one diner, but really make a difference. Start programs for people like Derek, people who never had anyone to help them. Create opportunities for single parents like you who are fighting to take care of their kids. Build something that matters. That sounds like a big undertaking. It is. Victoria smiled. But I think I've finally found someone who can help me do it right. Marcus understood what she was asking. I'm just a waiter from Atlanta, he said. I don't know anything about running programs or building organizations. You know how to treat people. You know how to listen. You know how to help without expecting anything in return. Victoria leaned forward. That's worth more than any MBA. Marcus looked around the diner at the booths, where he had served thousands of meals at the counter, where Derek had humiliated him at the door, where he had walked out as a broken man and walked back in as something more. Okay, he said. Let's do it. Victoria's face lit up. Really? Really, but we're going to do it my way. Slow and steady. One person at a time. No big flashy programs that look good on paper but don't actually help anyone. I wouldn't have it any other way. They shook hands, and then surprising them both, Victoria pulled him into a hug. Thank you, Marcus, she whispered, for everything. Thank you for stopping at this diner, he replied, even when you didn't have to. 3 months later, Riverside Diner reopened with a new name and a new mission. The sign above the door now read, Riverside Community Kitchen, where everyone belongs. The renovation had been extensive. New booths, new equipment, a fresh coat of paint in warm, welcoming colors. But the biggest change wasn't visible. It was in the programs Victoria and Marcus had created together. A job training initiative for people who had been incarcerated, giving them skills and a second chance. A scholarship fund for employees who wanted to continue their education. A meal program for families struggling to put food on the table. And a small office in the back where Marcus met with people who needed help listening to their stories, connecting them with resources, treating them like human beings instead of problems to be solved. The grand reopening was packed. Customers old and new filled every booth and lined up out the door. Local news cameras captured the event. The mayor gave a speech about community investment and corporate responsibility. But the moment Marcus would remember most happened quietly away from the cameras. He was standing by the counter when a woman approached him. She was young, maybe 25, with tired eyes and a toddler on her hip. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Marcus Turner?" "That's me." "I heard about what you're doing here, the job training program." She shifted the toddler to her other hip. "I just got out of a bad situation. My ex, he wasn't a good man. I've been staying at a shelter with my son trying to find work, but no one will hire me. I don't have experience, and I have gaps in my employment history, and—" She stopped, tears filling her eyes. "I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I heard you help people, and I don't know where else to go." Marcus thought about the woman Victoria had been that night in the storm, stranded alone, desperate. And he thought about himself standing in the unemployment office, wondering how he was going to feed his daughter. "What's your name?" he asked. "Destiny. Destiny Williams." "And your son?" "This is Marcus." She smiled slightly. "Named after his grandfather. He passed last year." Marcus looked at the little boy who stared back at him with solemn brown eyes. "Well, Destiny," Marcus said, "I think you came to the right place. Let me tell you about our program." An hour later, Destiny Williams had a job interview scheduled for the following week, and an appointment with a caseworker who could help her find permanent housing. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't have to thank me. Just do the same for someone else one day." Destiny nodded, holding her son tight. I will, I promise." As she walked out, Victoria appeared at Marcus's side. "Who was that?" "Her name's Destiny. Single mom escaping a bad situation needs a fresh start. And you're going to help her." "We're going to help her." Marcus turned to face Victoria. "That's the whole point, isn't it? We help one person, and they help someone else, and it keeps going. The circle of kindness." "Something like that." Victoria looked around the bustling diner at the families eating together, at the employees laughing behind the counter, at the community board, covered with local announcements and thank you notes from people the program had helped. "My father would have loved this," she said quietly. "Tell me about him." Victoria smiled, a distant look in her eyes. "He came to this country with nothing, built a restaurant in Chinatown with his bare hands, worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. But he never complained. He used to say that hard work was a privilege, not a burden. That every meal he served was a chance to make someone's day better." "He sounds like a wise man." "He was. He passed away 5 years ago. Heart attack." Victoria's voice wavered. "I was in a board meeting when I got the call. A board meeting. For a company I don't even own anymore. I'm sorry. The worst part is, I never told him I was proud of him. Never told him that everything I achieved was because of what he taught me." She wiped her eyes. "I was too busy being important to say the words that mattered." Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. He knew. "You think so? I know so. Parents always know, even when their kids are too stubborn to say it." Victoria laughed through her tears. "When did you get so wise?" "I've had good teachers." Marcus smiled. "My father, my wife, my daughter, and now you." Victoria pulled him into a hug. "Thank you, Marcus, for giving me a second chance." "Thank you for giving me one." That evening, Marcus picked up Maya from Greenwood Academy. She had been attending the new school for 2 months now, and the change in her was remarkable. She talked constantly about her art projects, her new friends, her favorite teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, who told her she had the eye of a true artist. "Daddy, look what I made." Maya ran toward him, waving a painting over her head. It was a landscape, a road stretching into the distance with a single figure walking toward the horizon. "That's beautiful, baby." "What is it?" "It's the road to heaven." Maya pointed to the figure. "That's Mommy. She's walking to meet us when we get there someday." Marcus felt his throat tighten. That's really special, Maya." "Ms. Rodriguez says art is how we talk to people who aren't here anymore. So I painted this for Mommy so she knows we're thinking about her." Marcus knelt down and pulled his daughter into his arms. "She knows, baby. She's always known." They walked to the car hand in hand. Maya chattered about her day. The butterfly they had released in science class, the song they were learning for the winter concert, the boy named Tyler, who had shared his crayons with her. "Daddy," Maya said, as he buckled her into her car seat. "Yeah, baby." "Are you happy?" Marcus paused. He thought about the question, really thought about it. Was he happy? A year ago, he would have said no. A year ago, he was drowning in grief and bills and loneliness, barely keeping his head above water, wondering if he would ever feel whole again. But now he had a job he believed in, friends who cared about him, a daughter who was thriving, a purpose that got him out of bed every morning, and somewhere watching over them all, a wife who had never stopped loving him. "Yeah, baby." Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm happy." "Good." Maya smiled. "Mommy says she's happy too." 6 months later, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution ran a feature story about Riverside Community Kitchen. The article told the story of Marcus Turner, the single father who had been publicly fired for being 5 minutes late, only to be rehired and promoted by the owner he had rescued in a storm. It told the story of Victoria Chen, the businesswoman who had rediscovered her father's values through an unlikely friendship. And it told the stories of the dozens of people the program had helped, former inmates finding work, struggling families getting back on their feet, Lonely People Discovering Community. The article ended with a quote from Marcus. People ask me all the time why I stopped to help a stranger in the rain. And the truth is, I don't have a good answer. I just saw someone who needed help, and I decided to be the person who helped. That's all it was. One small choice. But that choice changed everything, not just for her, but for me, and for all the people we've been able to help since then. I guess that's the thing about kindness. You never know how far it's going to reach. You just have to trust that it will. The article went viral. Donations poured in from across the country. Other cities reached out wanting to start similar programs. Marcus and Victoria were invited to speak at conferences, to consult with businesses, to share their story with anyone who would listen. But the moment that meant the most to Marcus came on a quiet Sunday evening, almost a year after that fateful night in the storm. He was driving home from the diner when he saw a car pulled over on the side of the road. The hood was up, and a man was standing beside it, staring at his phone with a frustrated expression. Marcus pulled over. "Need some help?" he called out the window. The man looked up, young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a uniform from a fast food restaurant. "My car died. I've been trying to call a tow truck, but no one's answering." "Where are you headed?" "Home. I just finished a double shift." The man rubbed his face. "My wife's waiting with dinner. It's our anniversary." Marcus smiled. "Get in. I'll give you a ride." The man hesitated. "You sure I don't want to put you out?" "It's no trouble." Marcus opened the passenger door. "Besides, you can't miss your anniversary." As they drove, Marcus learned that the man's name was James. He had been married for 2 years. His wife was pregnant with their first child. He was working 2 jobs to save money for the baby. "I don't know how to thank you," James said when Marcus pulled up to his apartment building. "Most people would have just driven by." "Most people did," Marcus said. "I was one of them for a long time. But someone taught me that the world changes one act of kindness at a time. All you have to do is stop." James looked at him with curious eyes. "Who taught you that?" Marcus thought about Victoria, about LaShonda, about his father, about Mrs. Patterson and Tommy and Lisa and Maya, about all the people who had shown him what it meant to be human. "Everyone," he said. "Everyone taught me that." James shook his hand. "Well, whoever you are, thank you. I won't forget this." "Pay it forward," Marcus said. "That's all I ask." He watched James walk into his apartment building, and then he drove home to his daughter. Maya was waiting on the couch with Mrs. Patterson watching a movie about a princess who discovered she was magic. "Daddy!" She jumped up and ran to him. "You're late." "I know, baby. I stopped to help someone." Maya grinned. "Like you helped Miss Victoria." "Just like that." "Good." She took his hand and pulled him toward the couch. "Mommy says helping people is the most important thing." "Mommy's right." "She's always right." Marcus sat down with his daughter, pulling her into his lap. Mrs. Patterson smiled at them and quietly let herself out. On the TV, the princess was learning that her magic wasn't something she was born with. It was something she chose. Every day, with every decision, she decided what kind of person she wanted to be. Marcus thought about that. He thought about the night in the storm, the choice to stop the ripples that had spread outward from that single moment. He thought about Victoria and the diner and the programs they had built together. He thought about Derek, broken and alone, paying the price for choosing differently. And he thought about LaShonda. She had been gone for almost 3 years now. 3 years of mornings without her smile, nights without her warmth, moments she should have been there for, and wasn't. But she was still with them. In Maya's laugh, in the values Marcus tried to live by, in the voice that whispered to him, in the quiet moments reminding him who he was and who he could be. "Daddy." Maya's voice pulled him back to the present. "Yeah, baby. When I grow up, I want to help people like you do." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them back. "You already do, Maya. Every day." How? By being you. By being kind. By seeing the best in everyone. He kissed the top of her head. That's the most important kind of help there is. Maya snuggled closer to him. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. Forever and ever. Outside, the Atlanta night was quiet. Stars were starting to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere a car was driving down a rain-slicked road. Somewhere a stranger was stranded waiting for help. Somewhere someone was making a choice that would change everything. The world was full of moments like that. Small decisions that seemed meaningless at the time, but rippled outward in ways no one could predict. A hand extended. A door opened. A stranger welcomed in from the storm. Marcus Turner had learned that lesson the hard way. He had lost his wife, his job, his hope. He had been broken and humiliated and brought to his knees. But he had also been lifted up. By kindness. By community. By the simple truth that no one makes it through this life alone. And now, every day, he tried to pass that lesson on. One act of kindness at a time. One person at a time. One small choice at a time. Because that's how the world changes. Not through grand gestures or sweeping reforms. Through ordinary people making ordinary decisions to help each other. Through strangers becoming friends. Through circles of kindness that never end. Marcus held his daughter close and watched the stars appear. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, what trials he would face, what losses he might still have to endure. But he knew one thing for certain. He was not alone. He had never been alone. And as long as there were people willing to stop for strangers in the rain, he never would be. The road stretched forward into the unknown, but Marcus Turner was ready to walk it, one step at a time, one act of kindness at a time, one day at a time, and that was enough. That was everything. The end.